With Indy Road in the books, it's time to turn our attention to another road course as we're headed to Watkins Glen and Brian Twining. The season is about to be over in terms of the regular season. We're going to be talking playoffs. We're going to be getting the final few names that are going to be in the field of 16. Very excited, but we'll review our DraftKings lineups, we'll review the betting card, and we'll figure out where we want to attack the betting board this week, all on today's Angle of Pursuit.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining, how is it going? Coming to us live from fabulous Las Vegas. You just can't help yourself. It was calling your name for weeks and weeks and weeks, and before the season really gets going NFL wise, you had to answer that call.
Oh yeah, I had to get out here for at least one more regular season NASCAR race. I would have preferred to come out here next weekend for Daytona because I love wasting money on super speedway races. But I had to take a quick impromptu trip here. I love hitting the sports books, betting NASCAR. There's a lot of good markets here. There's a ton of matchups that I'm really interested in. And before doing any research, I went to the sports book and laid about $100 on a couple of matchups that'll probably be absolutely terrible plays post qualifying. But yeah, I love coming here. I'm excited to go bowling at the Glen. This is Chase week. Like, if he does not win here, we're in for one effing exciting Daytona race next Sunday.
Yeah, I was reviewing some of our season-long bets, and he's definitely in my playoff 4. So if he doesn't even make the playoffs, I mean, it would be a fitting end to the run of success or lack thereof that I've had. I've been colder than ice cold, so fading me is probably a way to victory lane. But yeah, it sure feels like the world is on Chase Ellliott, and I'm really tempted to see if he can do it. Obviously, this is a great track for him to do that, but my word, AACE has just not been there this so far. Let's throw up we'll throw up the lineup, and then we'll throw up a little bit when we see how it turned out. But overall, I think we did some okay things. I just think there was not enough, coming together, as they say. So Truex, Bell, fine plays, 80% Harvick. That was definitely not the move, but it is what it is.
Hey, we talked about it starting that far back in the field. Like, he was going to be heavily rostered.
Kobayashi was not the answer. Ryan Preece was not the answer. Tyrone Gibbs, though, I know from a DraftKings perspective didn't look good, but that guy, he had to go. He went all the way to the back. He was in the high 20s, and he was able to drive back through the field. I think if he stays where he was, he would have been really strong and been a legit contender and felt good about playing him. But obviously from last week's DraftKings, by the points, he wasn't there. Hendrick, same thing. Dinger, same thing.
I was just going to say Dinger, though, when you look at just that right there, 21 fastest laps. That tells you that if he wasn't mired back in traffic early and didn't have some early issues, when you're racing at the back of the pack at road courses like that, you're going to make contact. It's going to be difficult to pass people. If he had a better starting position, say top 15 or so, first 7 rows or something, we're looking at somebody that's probably inside the top 5 by the end of the day. So, I feel like Dinger was still a good play. He had the speed in the car, and we'll see. And, I'll talk about it. The matchup I bet already this week, probably ill-advised, but.
I think it's a good bet. And it's, once again, process over results. We can look at process, and if we got to the right names at the right prices, then I think we'll feel better.
Yeah.
I built this after we finished recording, and I was pretty happy with it. Nothing stellar, but a bunch of solid finishes, and that's enough to get you to the cash line. So, fine with it. More of the same over here. Chastain, Yeah, just very average, very underwhelming. I will say, as we look at our betting card of more bloodbath, it's just been awful. So just fade us with. It's just I don't know what's going on the last month, but it has not been good. But the thing we have continuously done, Brian, is we have found a way to figure out who's going to win the damn race and then not put them on our betting card.
I was just gonna say, dude, I'm so mad at myself for
We
not
talked
just
about
hitting the
McDowell.
outright
We
with
said that was a
McDowell.
great bet. We said, "Oh, we love it." Didn't bet it. Didn't put him in DraftKings. We talked about Busher for his win in Michigan. Good price. Thought it was interesting. Or no, not Michigan. What was the race before that?
It was the
Why? Anyways, Pocono. I don't remember. It was the flat short
sorry.
one. My brain isn't. I put it away because I don't want to think about it. But yeah, anyways, we talked about him. That that's a good number. It makes sense. Here's the reasons. Didn't bet it. We had him in DraftKings that week, so at least we got some benefit of it. But
Yeah,
so this
Richmond.
week, Brian,
Richmond,
when we figure out who we like and we say that's a good number, and we both agree that it should be a bet, let's actually bet it and get some of the benefits. So overall, not a great week. Suarez over SVG. Suarez was good all day. He could have legitimately won the race. Felt good
he
about
was
that.
incredible.
Bell over SVG. That was probably a little more luck than good. Obviously finishing one spot, but Bell was strong all day. Feel pretty good about that. Dinger was a good car and probably would have been more of a factor, but obviously had issues and ended up spinning out. Hendrick top 10, not so much. Chastain, Kobayashi, a outright card full of losers. Even went in on Truex, and he was just fine. Like, he was a good car, but he was never contending. Hamlin never had contention. He was clearly trying to make stuff happen by staying out in stage 2 and then pushing at the end. Ty Gibbs, like I said, he was a good car, good process, bad result. McDowell top 5, we talked about that. I did get some top 5 exposure, so at least I got something. Not quite the nice payout that we could have gotten, but plus 220. I'm pretty happy with that. Bubba, Denny, I mean, just being on alternate game plan, I think was problematic. So, and then Truex over Reddick.
I was just going to say the thing about Denny Hamlin that it's hard to bet him because he's so secure in his playoff positioning that like he's able to take those risks. And sometimes that's going to result in a finish that isn't necessarily where he should be, or he could pop and, finish inside the top 3 when you don't expect him to, because he does take a risk opposed to everyone else running a different strategy.
An extra playoff point would be really nice. So let's stay out. Let's win stage 2. Let's get the extra playoff point.
Yep.
Knowing that we're already in, we can figure stuff out. So it does make handicapping some of these races down the stretch a little bit more challenging because you have to figure out motivation and all that stuff. More bloodbath on your card. You did have Chastain over Keselowski and the McDowell top 10. Which at minus 139 ended up being a really nice price, but obviously we could have pushed it a little bit more.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting week to keep it going. We'll head over and look at the outright card. I don't know that I love anybody that I'm actually going to put on in terms of a bet. I have a couple names we should talk about. We have to figure out. So there's a couple of drivers I really want to get exposure to. I haven't figured out how. And then I want to talk through some stuff with you and figure names out. Because I don't want to not like. Obviously, some of the guys we leaned on last week didn't work out. But does that mean they were bad plays, or does it mean or should we consider should we consider going back to them this week? Because they were actually good plays. Obviously didn't work out, but there was reasons why we liked them at road courses. Very similar this week. Obviously, Watkins Glen is a little bit different. The Coda corollary with Indy Road, obviously, and then this week's a little bit different, but still, same guys are on the tip of our tongue. Same guys are on the tip of everyone's betting card this week. So let's run through it. I mentioned it on Twitter. Chris Wormy agreed with me, and here we are. Chase Ellliott is your favorite, 3.5 to 1. I just think because of narrative street of he has to win. This is a place where he's been awesome. Hendrick has the last 4 wins here, obviously 2 by Chase and 2 by Larson. Makes sense that he's right there. Larson's right behind him, 5, 6, 6.5. But that is providing a lot of cover and a lot of potential opportunity for kind of that next wave. So I guess before we dive into any other names, if are you any interest in Chase and or Larson at their prices, or should we just move on?
Absolutely not. We've hit on this so many times. Like, what if they F up qualifying and you get the same number, or you're probably getting a slightly longer number? And if say it's during the race, and say they get off strategy a little bit to try to move up during the second stage or whatever that may be, they pit early and they fall back further in line, you can get a longer number live on these guys than you would if they were to, like, say both of them put it on the front row. Like, how much shorter can these numbers get? You're not going to see somebody at 2 to 1 on an outright in a Cup Series race, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Chase pulls it, it's 2.5, 275, but
but he would also have to be the fastest car in practice in pretty much every single metric.
And I think because Larson's right there with him, I don't know if they can ever put it, because they would have to factor all that in. But it'll be interesting to see. So let's talk about that next range, which just has a bunch of guys that we were excited to bet last week, guys that we wanted to get exposure to, but their prices were simply too short. Martin Truex back to 7, 7.5. 6.5 if you have DraftKings and FanDuel. Tyler Reddick, next wave, 8, 8.5. And then we get in double digits. We start talking Chris Bell, Michael McDowell, Daniel Suarez, Kyle Busch as kind of that like 10 to 12 range. A bunch of road course guys. Obviously, McDowell, off a win. We did this with Chris Buescher. We said it is not possible for him to win back-to-back races, and sure enough, he figured out a way to go back-to-back. Any interest in McDowell, Bell, Reddick, Suarez, anybody that is kind of in this 8 to 12 range?
I'm probably being drawn to the manufacturer and just the name value here, but I feel like Bell at 12 to 1 is a decent value because he showed well at Sonoma when it came to, practice, qualifying. Stage 1, he ran really well. He had a really good car there. And I feel like Watkins Glen translates to Sonoma much more than it does Indy Road Course or COTA, and especially Chicago. So, I think the Toyotas are going to be strong here again. And I think Bell is somebody that, he's kind of been floundering the last few weeks, but he's had speed. 12 to 1 is good. The McDowell price, it's kind of like Buescher, but the Buescher was 25 to 1 the next week, at a bigger type track where he's excelled at in the past. So although McDowell, I guess, I think it was on the NASCAR betting preview show, they were talking about how McDowell's pit crew was talking about that this is actually his best track. That said, this guy has 2 career wins. There's no way I could bet him at 12 or 13 to 1. I just can't.
Yeah, I need exposure to him. I got to figure out how to do it. It's not going to be the outright market. Probably things like top 3s, top 5s, especially now he's got the win. He's locked. He'll probably just try to pile up the points. Per iFantasy Race, total speed rankings in 2023, McDowell has the second best average. He was 10th at COTA, 3rd at Sonoma, 3rd at Chicago, and 4th at Indy. So even winning, he was only 4th fastest, but he has just been incredibly strong at road courses. I want some exposure to him. I just got to figure out how. I don't think it's outright. Tyler Reddick is the only guy that's faster than him. 1st at COTA, 10th at Sonoma, but 4th at Chicago and 3rd at Indy. So I think Tyler Reddick is very interesting. If we had flipped Indy and Watkins Glen, would Reddick be 5 or 6 to 1 this week like he was last week, or because of the chase factor and because of Hendrick's dominance. It's just hard to put him there.
Yeah, I like. Honestly, Reddick should probably be a little bit higher up in the outright market, but I definitely feel like the in-race performance and the pit issues and just kind of having issues has affected his number.
Stage 3 and Tyler Reddick is just not oil and water. They just can't figure it out. There's issues getting into the pit, issues getting out of the pit, issues with his pit crew. I think Win the Race had his pit crew in the 20s in terms of overall efficiency, which is not good. He needs to if there's a goal for between now and next season, Reddick should absolutely be figuring out what Williams Byron's crew's doing and figure out a way to get a crew that can be on at or near that level, because that crew has just been insane all year long.
Yeah.
I'm with you on Bell. He's interesting. 10, 12. He's fine. But like I said, I don't love the outright market. I think there's a couple names that I'd be willing to take a shot on just because I think that number could change. And I think once we get into the 20s, we'll talk about those names. So Kyle Busch, another guy, 10, 12. I don't think there's any interest. What about going back to Buescher? I mean, you can mention your dinger bet if you want. I like the bet you placed. At the same time, like I don't know that I want to bet dinger to win the race. Do you?
Yeah, that's like 17-1 on AJ Allmendinger at a road course. It sounds
in FanDuel now. What are we doing?
Yeah, like the 17-1 number, I wouldn't mind, but I just don't know. Like Colleague has kind of been sputtering in 2023. That said, I fell for the old school dinger versus the field and road courses and bet dinger at plus 110 over Daniel Suarez, who has been incredible at. That said, like, you know, it's name value for me. And Dinger is somebody who, when you're talking about success at road courses, Dinger is the guy. Like, you think he's literally Dinger the ringer. I mean,
yeah.
Like
it's just his run this year in terms of speed has gone worse every week. So Coda, he was 3rd. Sonoma, he was 5th. Chicago, he was 10th, and then he was 17th at Indy Road last week.
Yeah, but see, like, so that's for me. Okay, Chicago, I throw that out the window for pretty much everybody in the Cup Series. I'm not factoring in that at all. Indy, it's kind of worrisome because Dinger was incredible there in the past, and I don't know. I think this goes to what I had been saying, that the 2023 version of the next gen car is much different than the 2022 version, because clearly some guys that were good last year weren't good this year, and vice versa. So, you know, I don't know what Colleague's doing, but that said, Dinger was really good at Sonoma. He had decent speed there. He wound up finishing 6th at that track to Suarez's. I think he was outside the top 20. And, you know, if these two are going to correlate a lot more than Indy or Chicago, I really think that Dinger can put it all together this weekend and just kind of manufacture a good race and just stay out of trouble and potentially finish inside the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, Suarez was good at Coda and he was great at Indy, and those two have a lot of crossover. But at Sonoma, he was 24th, and then he was obviously not very fast at Chicago. Once again, we're not factoring that in a ton, but I think speed on a road course is important. So, less of finishing position and that kind of stuff. But Dinger's been better, so I like that bet. But at the same time, like, I'd need it to be 20 in order to bet him to win the race.
Yeah, like you said, the outright market this week, honestly, I don't know if I'm going to have anybody.
Buescher is the first name that's compelling to me. If you can get 20 on him, I kind of like it. Am I crazy to go back to it?
I don't know, man. Like,
and the other thing that's hard is because, like, looking back at his run, like, he was fine. He actually had a better week last week than maybe we anticipated, just because of his normal success or lack thereof at those tracks. He's kind of been like a top 10 car. He finished 9th after starting 7th at Watkins in 2022. 2022 Watkins Glen, also, I rewatched it. There was a lot of rain, and fingers crossed, knock on wood, whatever you want to do. Hopefully we don't have to worry about that this week. But I do wonder like how much that weather and whatnot played into kind of how that race ran. There was a lot of water on the track for majority of it. Obviously dried out as the race went along. By the end, it was okay, but there was a lot of factors that kind of messed up the expected flow of that race. So I'm also trying not to I don't know how to like factor that in for this week.
Yeah.
So Busher is interesting. Obviously, is leveled up. Probably a better top 5, top 10 bet. It might be a week just to get in on top 5s and 10s, although those numbers are truly shit this week. So I don't know if I'm going to bet anything, honestly. And I say that now knowing my card will probably be like 30 bets deep, but I'm trying to keep myself level headed. So Denny Hamlin, William Byron, and Ty Gibbs are the next 3 names. And I think all 3 have interesting potential as bet them now, practice and qualifying goes well, and those numbers are cut in half.
Completely agreed. And considering that Denny Hamlin's only road course victory came here at Watkins Glen, and he was the guy that put it on pole at Sonoma, this 20-1 number is likely to get shorter. Yep. So, I mean, we saw what happened at Sonoma, though, where he wound up wrecking himself, just being a doofus. But
and Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. Both times he cursed himself. But in terms of pre-flop value, like you can't get any better than Denny this week, in my opinion. And Wormy was talking about it on the NASCAR betting preview show. He got it at 30.
Yeah, that's a nice number. Also with Byron, obviously he's been incredible all year long. He's been really fast. And this is a place where Hendrick dominates. So if he
4 straight wins,
they're going to price that in and that number is going to go away. So I'm probably going to put 1 or 2 of these guys on the card, but like I said, I don't love anything. And you know, as they say, we're not required to make a single bet every single week. So figure out what you do or don't like. And you know what? Football season's here. We got Daytona next week in the playoffs. You could bet some futures. Like there's lots of ways to get some action done if you really want it. Because if the numbers don't warrant the bet, then don't push yourself to make a bet that you don't like and then be mad at yourself when you make it. So I like Byron. I like Hamlin. I think both could be 10 to 12 by the time we're talking on Saturday night or Sunday morning. I think they make sense. And I think Gibbs is interesting because that car was really fast last week. I think he drove through the field and did some stuff that was really impressive. And if they're able to get that car to Watkins Glen and actually have it have speed again, he could be a legitimate factor. Maybe even, you know, if you don't want to bet him outright, you want to bet him top 5, top 3. There could be some nice numbers with his outright price at 2025.
The only thing I will say about Ty Gibbs, and you know, he got a lot of talk on the NASCAR betting preview show. He's really racing one guy right now. Well, 2 guys, Suarez and Bubba Wallace. So I wonder, say we're in a scenario where Bubba Wallace struggles on road courses. He's just sucking the entire race. And Suarez, say he wrecks out early. Yeah. Then Ty Gibbs just has to coast and, you know, just try to get a good finish, a decent finish. And he's not going to push for a victory. You know, obviously this is all.
There's also a Daytona next week, and Bubba could win that, or Brad Keselowski could win that, or somebody who's not currently in, and then all of a sudden it's getting a little dicey. So if he has a legit opportunity to put it near the front and keep it there, he's going to absolutely do that.
Oh, for sure.
Bowman, interesting. Don't know that I love him. 30 to 1. Definitely don't love him at 20 to 1. Austin Cindric, 30-35, no interest. Joey Logano.
Nope.
Is our guy iFantasy rates. Let me see if I can find the tweet because he is very feast or famine.
Look, we do this every week with this guy.
I know, but like legitimately at Watkins Glen, he's feast or famine. There's like he's either absolutely incredible or he's absolutely shit, and there's literally nothing in between. So Let's see. It should be right around here. I was looking at it today. Here we go. So Joey Logano has been a hero or zero at Watkins Glen over the last 12 races. 6 results in the top 7s. The other 6, he was 22nd or worse. So if you like Logano, you think there's potential opportunity here, make sure you get paid out. Grab a top 3, grab a top 5. Don't fart around and get a top 10 or some matchups. He's a great guy to go. Give me like a third of a unit on the outright, 2/3 on a top 5 price, and then just fade the shit out of him in matchups. And then cash if he has a great day, and if he doesn't, then don't worry about it. But yeah, I think his top 5 price is interesting. Top 3 is good. But if he drives well, he's gonna have a day, and if he doesn't, then he's out of the way.
So essentially, what you're saying is you're copying what I was talking about Ryan Blaney a few weeks ago, where he's either
Ricky
like
Bobby. He's either first or
he's
last.
either like a winning car, or he's just like middle of the road.
He's either top 3 or 23. Like there's.
I will admit though that number at 45-1 on Logano, who is one of the best, if not the best driver / team in terms of taking advantage of weird situations within a race and putting themselves in situations where if there is a late caution, they're right there up front. That number will pay. So I mean, a small unit play. If you have the extra bankroll, obviously this is not something that I would advocate, you betting on, because I dislike Logano at the betting window and I just don't think it's going to happen. But if anybody's going to take advantage of some weirdness at the end, it's going to be him.
Yeah. And like I said, make sure you get paid out on it. And I am adding the 45-1. I'm adding it for 1/10 of a unit. So like, don't go.
Yeah, exactly. You
don't go banana of a sandwich, but like, yeah. And then can we talk about Ross Chastain for a second? Like, what's going on with this dude? He is just, it's not even like he is super slow. He has no, he's not in the conversation. He's not even competing for like top 10s. Like what are we doing?
Yeah, the watermelon has definitely not ripened on his season. Really, since the Hendrick comments, like you've seen a much different Chastain. I know he returned. He had a couple races where he did pretty good, but then he's kind of reverted back to that immediate post Hendrick conversation, and he's just a mediocre
Rick Hendrick
car.
Like dudes go pull a spark plug out of his car or something. And I know this week with Chastain locked into the playoffs with the win, and they're going to be putting all their attention and all their stuff onto Suarez. So I have no interest in Ross Chastain, and I'm a Chastain fanboy. I don't think any of this other stuff makes sense. So right now I put Logano at 45. I put 1/10 of a unit. The Byron and Hamlin are the 2 names that I would consider adding, but like, I don't know. At this point, I'm going to be really patient and not get myself above my skis if I don't have to. Are you putting any outrights on?
I just don't think there's any numbers that.
So we'll see what practice and qualifying does. We'll see if we can't find some value.
I will say, I love Martin Truex this weekend, but 7.5,
yeah,
I don't know, because he didn't show well last week. Although I'm not taking too much into that, or at Chicago, I'm not factoring that as much. Like, I wonder if his qualifying effort will still be kind of mediocre, like at Sonoma, and we get this same number, if not a better number, although his practice stats say he is one of the best cars again.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. He's somebody on my short list that I would consider, but I want a little bit better, or at least I'd rather bet him at 10 if he's not great, or bet him at like 5 or 6 if he's incredible, than bet him where he is right now. Top 10 market is disgusting this week. So obviously a bunch of your big dogs are going to be heavily juiced. Dinger's minus 175. Denny is minus 175. Byron minus 175. I mean, always shop it. You might be able to find a better number. Chris Buescher minus 160. Like, they're actively wanting us to not bet top tens this week. Michael McDowell.
We have action on FanDuel.
Oh baby.
Okay.
Is it numbers that
Denny Hamlin is minus 125 on a top 10?
Much more reasonable. Still not great,
yeah.
But let's see. Top 10 over on the duel. All right. Show me more. See, Dinger's top.
Yeah, like again,
Hamlin
minus 160.
Yeah, Hamlin and Byron are. I mean, it's better, but it's still shit. Logano.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
So Hamlin has top 10s in 4 of the last 6.
Yeah.
Watkins Glen races, and when you just look at his overall speed at or pre-race speed at practice and qualifying, when you look at Sonoma, he was great. So I mean, this number, if he's anywhere near that same type of car, he's probably going into that minus 180, 1 to 2 range. So I mean, if you want, again, we like his outright pre-qualifying value. I think there's value here too. You just run the risk of him wrecking himself, or again, just trying to gather up as many playoff points as possible and not worrying about a win or a extremely high finish. Instead, just trying to get points heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, I guess my concern is that if his car doesn't have it, we see something similar to last week where they try and play the games, get their point in stage 2, and then finish 19th. And obviously this week, I think there's a little more wheelman ability to kind of control how the race comes. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot more palatable at FanDuel, but it's still not great. And like, I don't know. I
mean, prior to last year when Toyotas were just absolutely garbage, Hamlin had qualified, I think, 6th or better in like 5 straight Watkins Glen races.
It's really hard.
We've seen him twice this year put it on pole.
Yeah, it's really hard to, because we don't want to factor in too much, because there was clearly something wrong with Toyotas last year, and they're figuring it out this year. And like Truex has been significantly better. Hamlin's been able to be the fastest guy on qualifying day, so that's certainly something.
All right, I talked myself into it. Good job, Brian.
Good job, Brian. Joey Logano plus 450. Is that the best number I can get on the top 5? I feel like it's not, but maybe. Plus 550 at DraftKings. There we go.
Look, you and I, we for the first time in a while, Kyle and I discussed bets, or at least a couple, before we jumped on here. And one of the ones that was intriguing to me, as disgusting as it sounds, was Joey Logano's top 10 number, because he always seemingly finds a way to finagle a good finish. Plus 185 at FanDuel.
And I know, like, there's a potential that he's 6th or 7th and he's still a top 10 car and he had a good day. But if I'm going with Logano, and based on his feast or famine record and his lack of success at points, I want to get paid out. So I put a 1/10 of a unit with outright at 450, and I put half a unit at plus 550 to top 5. That's where my head's at. I don't fault anybody who goes top 10, but I think more often than not, if he's hitting that top 10, he's probably hitting a top 5.
That's a good point. Good point.
But that's where my head's at, and that's where my pushback. But also, I've been colder than freaking Jack Nicholson and whatchamacallit. That's my betting card lately. So, take my advice for what you go down to BetMGM and bet Logano to not top 10 and see what you can get done. I would love to know what that number is on Sunday, Brian.
All right. We'll see if they even post it.
Yeah. It'll probably be not that good since he has longer odds. Although maybe he'll qualify well, and then we could come back and hammer that. What about like top 3 for some of the big dogs? Obviously, with road courses, it's a lot easier to predict. So we got like 210 with Martin Truex, 3-1 of Suarez. Obviously, you're fading him with Dinger. Plus 140 for Larson. And then we can go down and look at top 5s. Like, do you have any interest in going to some of the big boys at top 3s or top 5s this week? Like plus 120 on Truex, top 5.
I don't hate that because I expect Truex to come out firing on all cylinders, and even if he puts up a poor qualifying effort, I think that the top 5 number, I don't think that's going to move as much as say the outright, which you might get a 9-1 as opposed to a 7.5-1 if he doesn't look as good. Because just because somebody doesn't have race winning speed, it doesn't mean that they're going to be able to finagle their way inside the top 5. And somebody as good as him is more than likely to do that.
Yeah, and if he like looks good in practice and maybe qualifies like 11th or 12th, like his number is going to get shorter. Yeah. People are going to keep hammering that. So, and I think as the week goes along, the limits get bigger, and so the bigger bets will keep coming in, and just hammer those finishing position ones. So unless he looks like absolute dog shit, that is the best of the numbers. So if you want some exposure to some of these guys, but you're not really sure how, this might be the way. Plus 180 on Michael McDowell.
Okay, so in that plus 180 range right there, the guy that I'm actually leaning towards this week, Kyle Busch.
Okay.
Prior to last year when Toyota absolutely sucked, where he still qualified 10th, by the way, he finished 32nd. It was a terrible race and terrible year overall for him at Toyota. He had finishes of 7th or better in 4 of the previous 5 Watkins Glen races. He was incredible at Sonoma, finishing runner-up to Martin Truex Jr. and seemed like the only guy that could challenge him late in the race, and somebody who I believe has qualified inside the top 10 at each of the last 2 road courses, I think. So, like, I don't know. It's hard for me to get to these top 5 numbers that aren't over 2-1, longer than 2-1. And Kyle Busch, if anybody has like a feast or famine type weekend, like up or down, it's been him lately. He's either wrecking, cursing out his car, or finishing incredibly well. So
to your point, Kyle Busch finished 32nd last year, but started 10th, was 9th after stage 1, was 2nd after stage 2. And in fact, Reddick, who obviously Kyle Busch took over his car, qualified 5th, was 2nd by the end of stage 1, and finished with it as a 7th best car all day. So there's a lot to like about Kyle Busch and his potential. So I think that play makes some sense. But it also, like, you can't, like, I don't know, the value isn't there to bet all these guys top 5.
Exactly.
And so you have to really pick. Like, I think McDowell makes sense. I think Kyle Busch makes sense. I think Truex makes sense. And then if you take like a long shot, like obviously if you take a Logano and you can get paid out and take all of them, then sure. But like I'm trying to figure out who I want to take, because I think if you made some good points and I think he makes some sense. Kyle, like you said, Kyle Busch has kind of been a wave of excitement. So, sometimes he's up, sometimes he's down, sometimes he's mid-race changing. So, figuring out where to find value. There is one bet that I want to mention, and Full Tank with Phil mentioned it on the NASCAR betting preview show. Chris Wormy was all about it, and when he mentioned it, it tickled my interest for sure. And that was the winning race team. Let's see if we can find it. Supposedly on Caesars. Winning, not manufacturer, because Chevy's minus 115. No,
it was stage.
Yeah, where's that at?
Looks like they took him down.
Wormy went over there, hammered it, and now we can't bet it.
That's probably right.
It's supposedly on Caesars, and it was for the driver to win stage 1 and win the race, and it was 3-1.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful bet, because especially if you think about how last week played out, the guys are gonna go for it in stage one. You might notice, hey, this guy, like, it may be Larson or Elliotte, and they just may be the dominant factor, and they dominate stage one. And then obviously you could get a Hamlin or somebody who stays out in stage two, tries to pull it to get a point, and then comes back and wins stage three. And let's see. Yeah, so here's the Hendrick. Hendrick at plus 120, I don't think is terrible either. Plus money. When you get Larson and Elliotte, the two odds-on favorites. So those are fun bets if you want to just have a little bit of a exposure this week without going too crazy. Let's see, maybe it's in featured. I did like this as well, especially if you like Larson. Ty Gibbs to win on Saturday and Larson to win on Sunday, 25-1. I feel like that's a pretty decent bet.
Yeah, that's an awesome bet. You and I were talking about that prior to jumping on here.
You know what we're gonna do, Brian?
Gibbs,
we're
gonna do it.
We're gonna actually add it to the card. We're not gonna go, this is a good bet, and not add it to the card. I mean, 25-1 for a driver who's like 3-1 and a driver who's like 4 or 5-1.
Yeah.
Throw them together. Obviously, we can, you could parlay calculator, and I'm sure it's not, a screaming value. It feels like a decent value. And I'm, not going to put $1 million on it. So I'm just going to see if I can pull something out of my butt, dig myself out of the little bit of a hole that I'm in. Let's look at some matchups before we get ready to get out of here. Get a couple more thoughts, and we'll get out of here. So, Truex versus Reddick. Reddick is plus 110. We did the thing last week where we went with the guy because those two guys are pretty similar and didn't take it. Interesting. Byron and Hamlin. I like both those guys. I think Byron's probably safer, but I don't know. What about Kyle Busch versus Chris Bell?
I think both of them could have speed.
They're really doing a lot to pit us against guys against each other. What about Harvick at plus 110 versus Ross Chastain?
I don't mind that because of the road courses, for some reason, Harvick has actually done okay at Watkins Glen, and I
do really well here.
Yeah, I was just going to say on the NASCAR betting preview show, I forget who mentioned it. They were talking about guys that have raced here a bunch seem to just perform better than the younger dudes in the Cup Series. So I don't hate that, especially you're getting a little bit of juice there, only at minus 110.
I'm going to do Larson over Elliotte. Average ass.
Oh, baby.
Plus 125. I don't know. I just think this is the year from hell for Larson. From Elliotte. He's missed multiple races, both with injuries.
Plus 135 at BetRivers, by the way.
Even better. Sign me up. I saw it earlier in the week when it wasn't. It was like plus 105, minus 105, and I was like, that's at this point, I'm in. Logano versus Bowman. Bowman's probably a better bet. Once again, if you like Logano, you want to get paid out. Briscoe versus Hendrick, I don't hate. Gibbs versus the Dinger. I know we there's some optimism about Dinger, but that is Gibbs at plus money versus Dinger. Dinger cussing at his car, spinning around in the back of the field. It doesn't seem that far off to me. And I'm going to take McDriver versus Daniel Suarez at minus 110. I said I wanted some McDowell exposure, and I'm going to add it here. So
I think that's a decent way to get in on there.
Yeah, I mean he's not the favorite. I obviously think this is a good spot for Suarez too, who was really good last week. But yeah, so. I think that's it.
Yeah, so I I went to BetRivers and I found one. I guess I'm on the Hamlin train pre-practice and qualifying, but Denny Hamlin over Chris Buescher at -109. I guess I just like the number, but yeah, I also think Hamlin brings some speed here, and because it is a track he's performed pretty well at throughout his career, I think he's going to do okay.
It is weird to see you fade your guy to see Busch, though.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting. Hendrick as a big favorite against Denny Hamlin is interesting. Busch versus Dinger. Dell versus Busch. Larson, I got the 135. Truex
I feel like I need Kyle Busch exposure.
Yeah.
Kind of worried.
Reddick plus 110 against Larson. Reddick plus 100 against Truex. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm good. I'm gonna keep the card relatively light. Is there anything else you want to look at before we review and get out of here?
Hold on. I gotta add Kyle Busch somehow, some way.
Let's see if we can help Brian figure out how to do it. So future bets. Kyle Busch to top 5. It's plus 180. Don't hate that.
He's plus 190 at BetMGM, which isn't bad.
No, it's almost 2-1 is nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna add that.
Yeah, I think that's the move. And then if he looks really good, you can bet him to win the race on Sunday.
Yeah, because he's qualified pretty well at road courses this year. So,
but I also think like the odds of like with Larson and with Larson, Hamlin, Truex, Reddick, Chase Ellliott, like there's so many guys that could qualify well that even if Kyle Busch puts it on pole, like it's hard to see him being priced crazy aggressively. I think that's the move. I mean, we could look at top 3. Maybe that's 350. I think I'd rather.
Yeah, but I don't think there's enough value there. Like for me, when you go from a top 5 to a top 3, it should be double what the top 5 is because it's that much harder.
Yep, I agree. All right, Brian, let's review the card. Let's give the people our favorite bet, and let's get the fuck out of here. Once again, we're doing Sunday morning again as a live stream, right? That's our plan, even from Vegas.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, so hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications. We go live usually about 9:30 West Coast, 12:30 East Coast. Very light card for me, if you know me at all. Logano plus at 45-1 for 1/10 of a unit. If he wins, if he drives well, he will be in contention. Otherwise, he'll be out of the race, and I won't have to worry about it. Logano top 5 just to protect my investment a little bit. I grabbed the boost at Caesars with Larson winning on Sunday and Ty Gibbs winning on Saturday, 25-1. And then I have 2 bets. I have Larson over Elliotte at plus 135. And I have McDowell over Suarez at -110. Brian Twining, you have 3 bets as we sit here. Kyle effin Busch for a top 5 at plus 190. Denny Hamlin to top 10 at -125. And Denny Hamlin over Christopher Buescher -109. What is your best bet as we sit here Wednesday evening talking about NASCAR?
If I had to make a best bet, this is probably my favorite.
You're like, there's not one there, I'm not going to do it. You want to say both of them for the weekend? You could do that too.
Well, value-wise, I love this Hamlin top 10. I think that the poor finishes were kind of anomalies at Chicago and Sonoma. I mean, wrecking himself out of the races, like it's not indicative of the type of driver he is. So I think this is a good number. He's probably going to qualify well, which he's done multiple times already. And this is his best road course, in my opinion.
Yep. I am going to go with McDowell over Suarez. I really like that Larson over Elliotte, but there's a very legitimate chance that Larson or that Elliotte is a rocket, and that bet has no chance all day. I think McDowell is going to be really strong here. I think he can legitimately win the race. So I will take the minus 110 over Suarez. I think that there's value there, and I think there's opportunity to get in on him and not get absolutely smoked. That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Enjoy the rest of your week. Let us know down in the comments your favorite bet as you're getting into your early look at the card. Like I said, we'll be back Sunday morning, 9:30 West Coast time, 12:30 on the East Coast. Get you set for Watkins Glen. We'll talk to you next time.